If your mind is constantly spewing out negative thoughts that just swirl around, how do you turn off the faucet? Especially if these thoughts are about your body. That's today's question that we're going to be exploring. Learning about how this war on obesity has actually increased weight stigma, and this increased weight stigma leads to more thoughts about being overweight, the shame, and then also a technique where you acknowledge shame and start reprogramming your mind to respect your body. And I do say respect because the word love can be triggering, and sometimes it's hard to imagine loving your body, but you can tap into the power of respect. So if you do love this video, or even if you dislike it, leave it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And do leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. What questions do you have? What are your struggles? I want to know. Stay tuned for the end for the exercise. Let's get into today's content. We're first going to start off with body hatred, the culture of it. It's kind of started back in the 1960s or 70s when the official term war on obesity started becoming more mainstream. And since then, various studies have documented that weight stigma, as measured by a survey where people evaluate their responses, has gone up about 60%. And what that does is means that our culture, the stores, restaurants, airplanes, it is now becoming a war against obesity. So we've all heard stories where someone goes on an airplane and they take up more than one seat. And that's one example that seems pretty common sense, right? But there's plenty of other examples that don't make any sense. Like, for example, if you're a little bit bigger, if you're plus sized, go into a regular store, it might not hold your clothes. Or if you go to a restaurant, maybe the waiter asks you an innocuous question about your weight. Oh, sir, you want to watch your weight? So there's these little things from the places you go to stairs. All this has gone up as the weight stigma has increased. And I do want to acknowledge, I benefit from something called thin privilege. I used to be underweight, but I was never really overweight. I used to be malnourished, I had anemia, but I did not suffer from body shame in particular. I'm incredibly familiar with shame and a feeling of not being loved, but it hasn't been body shame specifically. So I do want to acknowledge that point. Usually the topics I cover on here are things that I've dealt with personally, but I do want to be honest with you that I have not dealt with body shame per se as much. Emotional disconnection, shame, self-hatred, weed addiction, cravings, you name it. Being out of control, out of my body, you name it. Learning how to love myself, you name it. I've been through it, but not body shame. But the conversation with Linda Tucker below, I'm always learning and growing. And she helped me really see the importance of body shame, because it oftentimes is the missing link that stops people from walking this eating intuitive journey. So that link down below is to the conversation I had with Linda Tucker, and she said it really made it clear for me. If you have all these thoughts about body shame, you might hear the messages of your body. For example, your body might say, I'm hungry, feed me, or I'm full, stop. But if you hate your body, if you're constantly thinking about how your body is horrible, you might hear the messages but not respond to the messages. It's like having a child that you don't want. The child is crying or communicating with you, but you don't want that child, so you just ignore him. So this brings me to my second point right here. All these thoughts about body shame. And one scientist has said that we have about 60,000 thoughts a day. Now, to me, honestly, that seems like a bit high, but let's say even 30,000 thoughts or 1,000 thoughts a day. Even, let's say 1,000 thoughts, extremely low, right? He says 60,000. I'll say 1,000. Probably more than 1,000, but let's go really conservative. Let's say 25% of those thoughts of 1,000 are thoughts about how your body doesn't fit, how, she doesn't like me because I'm fat. He doesn't like me because I'm fat. I feel fat. I feel ugly. Let's say 25% of those 1,000 thoughts are body related. How many thoughts is that per day? And then how many thoughts is that per year? And then how many thoughts is that per decade? And how many decades have you been thinking these thoughts? The point is that the war on obesity has increased the frequency of these thoughts because everywhere you go, there's a war on obesity. So it gets reinforced through media, and then you think these thoughts all the time, every day, for years. Your body is not good enough. It's not even that. It's your body's horrible. And how can there's a war on obesity, and there's this energy. Just do it. And weight loss enlightenment, we're saying no. Let's enlighten from weight loss. Let's let go of weight obsession. Let's learn to go with the body, right? That's the enlightenment. It's shifting this war to go with the body. And it's really hard to go with the body when you hate the body. So we need to understand the struggle, the freaking struggle. Because if we want to change the struggle, if we want to transform your thoughts for more mental clarity and headspace and to be less free of self-hatred so you can expand and live your dreams, we need to have proper expectations. What happens when we don't have proper expectations? Well, I think you've maybe experienced this before. You're promised one thing, that you'll lose weight, say, and then something funny happens. You gain it back. Your expectations were misled. The weight loss company said, oh, you'll lose weight. They implied you would keep it off. Your expectation was that you keep it off. The weight came back, your expectations were broken, you felt betrayed. So I don't want to lead to any sort of betrayal feeling. We need to understand the struggle. There's incredible weight stigma that leads to incredibly high frequencies of thoughts about self-hatred and body hatred that have been drilled into your mind for years. That's a tough battle to overcome, but it starts by understanding the struggle and having compassion. Yeah, you're in this struggle. And then lastly, the third point here is, how do we shift this? And there's an exercise that involves imagining a flower. This flower, you might imagine it's in the midst of fire, right? Because there's all this fire and hatred around. But this flower, there's different petals. And these flowers' petals represent the different aspects of you and your accomplishments and who you are that are not related to body image. So for example, you might be compassionate, you might be a hard worker, you might be creative or smart or have a gift, and you want to literally write these out, create a little flower image and write these out. And the technique that I want to share with you is where you acknowledge the struggle and say the thing that you value. For example, you say, whenever you try to catch your thoughts, right? So I am having a thought about my body and I am a compassionate person. So we don't want to fight our thoughts. That's what people go wrong. You might catch yourself thinking, I hate my body. And then you might get upset because you're thinking, I hate my body. You're thinking, why am I thinking I hate my body? God, stop thinking that. No. You acknowledge. We shift the energy from war to with, to going with, to flowing. I am having a body thought right now that is causing me some pain. And I'm a compassionate person. I'm struggling with my body image right now, and I'm a hard worker. So both can be true at the same time. And it's okay to struggle. You are going to struggle. That's okay. It doesn't mean that you're not a valuable person. It doesn't mean that you don't have gifts and things that are of worth. Both are true at the same time. You can struggle with your body image, and there are things about you that are valuable. So let me know your thoughts. Have a great day. Peace.